On a frosty morning on the edge of Banff National Park, Alberta, Canada, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the dense pine forests, casting a golden glow on the snow-covered Trans-Canada Highway. The winter of 2025 was harsh, with temperatures dropping below -20 so, and roads covered in a dangerous mixture of ice and packed snow. In this wild terrain, where nature coexisted with sparse human settlements, a grizzly bear named Nora and her little cub Toby trudged along the side of the road, leaving a trail of footprints in the fresh snow. Nora was an experienced mother, accustomed to the harsh conditions of Banff. Her thick dark brown fur protected her from the wind, and her attentive eyes constantly scanned the surroundings. Toby, barely 6 months old, hobbled along beside her, his little paws sinking into the snow, his curious nose sniffing at every new scent. They were looking for a sheltered place to hide from the cold, hoping to find a cave or thicket where they could wait out the blizzard. Nora kept stopping to listen to the silence, but something in the air made her fur stand on end. Her instincts warned her of danger. The silence of the winter morning was suddenly broken by the roar of an engine. An old pickup truck skidded on the icy road and flew out of the bend. The driver, a young man, clearly did not expect such a slippery road. The car swayed from side to side, its tires spinning helplessly. Nora, noticing the approaching danger, let out a low growl and, gathering all her strength, pushed Toby into a snowdrift on the side of the road. In the next second, the pickup truck crashed into the bear, throwing her into the middle of the road. The crash echoed through the valley, causing birds to fly up from the branches. Nora collapsed onto the snow. Her breathing became labored, and blood began to ooze from the wound on her side, staining the white snow red. The pickup truck driver panicked, stepped on the gas and sped away, leaving behind only a cloud of exhaust fumes. Toby, having climbed out of the snowdrift, ran up to his mother, whimpering with fear. He poked his nose into her fur, trying to wake her up, but Nora was breathing weakly, her eyes half closed. The cold of Montana intensified her suffering, and the snow continued to fall, covering them both with a thin layer. The minutes dragged on agonizingly. Toby, not knowing what to do, howled plaintively, his voice trembling in the frosty air. An ominous silence reigned around them, broken only by the whistling of the wind and the crunch of snow under the cub's paws. But suddenly, a new sound was heard in the distance, the low hum of a powerful engine. It was a brand new Volvo truck, its headlights shining brightly through the veil of snow. The driver, a middle-aged man named James, noticed a small figure on the road. Toby, summoning all his courage, stood in the middle of the highway, spreading his paws and letting out a weak but desperate growl, as if begging for help. James, an experienced truck driver, immediately realized that something was wrong. He braked gently, trying not to scare the bear cub, and turned off the engine. Getting out of the cab, he spoke in a soft voice. "Hey kid, don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." Toby, trembling with cold and fear, backed away but led James to Nora, who was lying on the road. Seeing the bear bleeding profusely, James froze. Her fur was soaked with blood, and her front paw was twisted unnaturally. James's heart sank. He couldn't leave them in trouble. He immediately took out his phone and dialed the local wildlife rescue service. While waiting for an answer, he sat down next to Toby, continuing to speak in a calm tone so that the bear cub would not panic. "Everything will be fine, baby. Help is on the way," he whispered, even though he himself felt the cold penetrating his bones. Nora was breathing with difficulty, her chest barely rising, and each breath was accompanied by a faint moan. The snowfall intensified, covering the Banff landscape with a white blanket, and the frost seemed to freeze everything around. Soon, local residents, attracted by the noise, appeared on the road. Among them was an elderly woman named Martha, who lived nearby. Seeing the scene, she gasped and ran home for warm blankets. James briefly explained the situation, and soon Martha returned with 2 woolen blankets, which they used to cover Nora, trying to keep her warm. Toby pressed himself against his mother, burying his nose in her side, as if trying to convey his strength to her. The residents looked at each other, their faces expressing a mixture of fear and compassion. One of them, a young man named Liam, suggested putting up temporary signs so that other cars would not drive through this section. James continued to keep in touch with the rescuers, giving them their exact location. "They're close. Hang in there," he said, even though he himself felt that time was dragging on endlessly. Nora stirred slightly, her eyes opening slightly as she met Toby's gaze. The bear cub whimpered softly, as if asking its mother not to give up. James watched the scene, and a sense of responsibility grew in his chest. He vowed to himself that he would do everything possible to save this family. Finally, sirens could be heard in the distance. 2 Banff Wildlife Rescue Service SUVs pulled up to the scene. A team of veterinarians and rescuers carrying medical equipment jumped out of the vehicles. The lead veterinarian, Dr. Emily Chen, immediately knelt down next to Nora, checking her pulse and breathing. The examination revealed that the bear had a broken front paw and a deep laceration on her side. "She has lost a lot of blood, but she is still alive," Emily said, her voice full of determination. The rescuers gave Nora painkillers and hemostatic drugs, then applied temporary bandages. Toby, seeing the needle, growled and tried to rush to his mother, but James and one of the rescuers gently held him back, petting and calming him. "It's okay, baby. They're helping your mom," James said, and Toby, as if understanding, quieted down. Residents helped by bringing extra blankets and making sure no one interfered with the team's work. The decision was made quickly. Nora needed to be taken to the Banff Veterinary Center immediately. The rescuers got out a special stretcher for large animals, covered with soft cushions. Working together, trying not to cause any pain, they lifted the bear and carried her to the van. Toby, not lagging behind, jumped in after her, clinging to his mother. This scene, a little bear cub unwilling to leave his mother, touched everyone deeply. Even the tough rescuers, accustomed to such situations, could not hold back their emotions. In the van, the vet checked Nora's vital signs once more. Her condition was critical, but there was still a chance she could be saved. James stood nearby, watching Toby, who was looking at his mother with teary eyes. "Hang in there, kid," he said quietly, feeling a lump in his throat. As the van pulled away, Toby pressed his face against the window, as if trying to memorize the faces of the people who had helped. James waved goodbye and then returned to his truck to clear the road. The residents stayed behind to clean up the accident site. The blood on the snow and the scraps of Nora's fur were reminders of the tragedy that had nearly taken 2 lives. They discussed how to install "Beware of Wild Animals" signs and increase road patrols. A cold wind swept through the valley, but hope glowed in people's hearts. At the Banff Veterinary Center, Nora was immediately prepared for surgery. The surgery lasted 4 hours. Doctors fixed her broken paw, stitched up the wound, and treated internal injuries. Toby sat at the operating room door, whimpering from time to time. The center staff brought him milk and soft food, but the bear cub hardly touched it, keeping his eyes fixed on the door. When Dr. Emily finally came out, a smile lit up her tired face. "She'll pull through," she said. Toby, as if sensing the good news, rushed into the room where Nora was lying. The bear, still weak from the anesthesia, slowly opened her eyes and licked the cub's nose. Toby purred happily, burying his face in her fur. The doctors asked everyone to remain quiet so as not to disturb the patient, but the joy in the room was palpable. James stopped by the center the next day to check on Nora's condition. Seeing Toby sleeping snuggled up to his mother, he felt relieved. "You guys did a great job," he said to Emily, shaking her hand. She replied, "It was a team effort, and your call saved them." Veterinarians estimated that Nora would spend several months at the center, recovering before she and Toby could be returned to the wild. The story of Nora and Toby spread throughout Banff. Local media reported on the brave bear cub, who stopped the truck, and the kind driver who didn't pass by. Alberta residents began raising funds to install new road signs and surveillance cameras to prevent similar accidents. Community organizations urged drivers to be more careful on roads passing through the national park. The image of little Toby standing in the middle of the highway and Nora fighting for her cub's life will forever remain in the memory of those who witnessed the event. This story has become a symbol of unity, compassion, and responsibility towards nature. It reminded everyone that even on the harshest winter days, the warmth of the human heart can save lives. Friends, thank you for taking the time to read this story. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us and learn about new adventures.